Hello, this is Dr. Kurt Stahora. I'm a professor within the College of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Niagara University. I also serve as the Niagara Global Tourism Institute Scholar, and I'm the Director of Research within the Institute. Today, as has been the case up to this point, you'll be hearing from scholars from both Europe and Asia. Our European scholar is Martine Ferry, and she'll be talking about the differences between occupancy, ADR, and Rev Par in Europe. And Dr. Justin Peng will do the same thing in Asia and pick out some key cities. I hope you can glean from this some of the differences on how COVID has affected some of these variables around the world.
Hello, my name is Dr. Justin Matthew Pang. I'm a lecturer with the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology University. Today, I'll be running through some of the Asian cities' hotels to see how they're performing, and I'll be going through some of the performance indicators, namely occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. And the cities I'll be covering will be Singapore, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, KL. Let's kickstart very quickly with Singapore. Singapore's pre-COVID occupancy is about 80%. Singapore has done very well. Actually, as a matter of fact, the occupancy actually dropped to about 60% during COVID times, but in May, June, and July, they've hit about 70%, and their ADR has also recovered to about 92 USD. Prior, they were slightly lower at 80 USD, but take note that Singapore's average ADR pre-COVID it's much higher at about 200 USD. The reason why this is so is because Singapore has a very good vaccination program and they've vaccinated about 80% of their population. I'm going to quickly run through with you on Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Take note that the occupancy for Hanoi, okay, at one point they recovered pretty well at about 40%, but right now with COVID pandemic taking place in Vietnam for both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, occupancy has dropped about 20%. ADR has also dropped to about 90 USD. In Ho Chi Minh City, occupancy has dropped to about 20% as well, and ADR has also dropped to about 64 USD. Uh, well, we can foresee occupancy and ADR dropping a lot more because of the current pandemic, and the government is really trying to control this. Next, I'll move on to Hong Kong. Hong Kong has done pretty well in terms of its occupancy. If you do take note of the occupancy in 2019 during the civil unrest and during the beginning of the COVID period, which was February and March, occupancy was about 40%. They have pushed occupancy to about 50-60%. ADR has also increased. Um, they've increased from last year 80 US dollars to about 103 US dollars. The reason why this is so is because of the high vaccination rates and also because they've put in a 21-day quarantine period, which has been beneficial to the hotels. Lastly, I'll cover Malaysia. Malaysia's occupancy usually is about 70%, but due to last year's COVID problems, it dropped to about 10 to 15%, and they are not doing very well. The ADR has also dropped substantially from about 50 USD, and ADR is about now 43 USD. This is due to the increased lockdown and also increased cases in COVID, and also because they had a state of emergency right from January to July. So we hope to see the occupancy rising, but I doubt we'll really go up with the current COVID cases rising. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Bonjour. This is Martine Ferry talking from Institut Paul Bocuse in France. So let's speak about this summer in Europe. We can say that it was a summer of recovery. Globally, in Europe, the hotel activity has accelerated, supported by a strong domestic demand and the health passport, the sanitary pass put in place by EU. If we look at the big picture, EU has had a solid summer season. This is particularly true for France, Greece, and Spain. In France, the Rev Par was plus 68% compared to 2020, but it remains minus 20% less than 2019. There is a huge rebound effect in many countries, but globally, the KPIs in Europe this summer remain below the 2019 levels. But they all have increased compared to 2020. Example, with the summer, with the Rev Par in the EU this summer, it stood minus 31% below 2019 levels. But the occupancy rate climbed by 17% from 2020. The EU, including the UK, has reached almost 26% in terms of occupancy rate. But this is not true everywhere because recovery patterns vary a lot in EU. Rev Par, for instance, may have ranged this summer from minus 20 in France compared to 2019 to minus 62% in Hungary. Same thing for other countries like Czech Republic, Netherlands, or Belgium. These countries are still down by more than 75% sometimes. We can say that the hotel revenues in the countries that I have mentioned have been divided by 4 compared to the pre-crisis era. So why? We can say why the performance of Spain, Greece, and France at such a level, why it has reached such a level. So it may be explained by the tradition and tourism patterns. Northern European countries are traditional generating markets for Mediterranean destinations. Seaside hotels this summer have almost reached pre-crisis level this summer. And so we can say that this summer we were back to normal in seaside European hotels. And European domestic demand was strong for sunny destinations. And some leisure-oriented regions, specific regions in Europe have climbed higher than in 2019 in regions, in terms of Rev Par, in regions like the French Riviera in France or Galicia or Asturias in Spain. So in some very specific regions, Rev Par have climbed and reached 2019 levels. In contrast, many urban destinations are still struggling to reach 2019 and so de facto 2020 level because they are more dependent on international and business activities. The Rev Par levels for Frankfurt, Berlin, or Munich, or even Paris or Madrid declined this summer by more than 25% and even 50% in some cities. So as European people like to spend their summer season by the sea, Mediterranean destinations were at the top this summer. Hope the recovery phase will continue in other destinations, more particularly in the urban ones, which are still struggling that I mentioned earlier.
Hello, this is Dr. Kurt Stahora once again. You've had an opportunity to hear from Dr. Ferry in Europe and Dr. Peng in Asia. And I think these numbers have been enlightening. We're experiencing something that we haven't experienced before in our lifetime with respect to COVID and how it's had an effect on tourism in a very profound way. I'm going to share some numbers with you on how COVID has affected North America. And we picked very specifically Niagara Falls, Canada, and Niagara Falls, USA here in New York, because I think they probably tell the story in a very illuminating way. I will make some general comments after as they relate to national trends that affected some of these numbers. In April, with respect to occupancy, from 20 to 21, our occupancy was 10.72% up to 46.6% in 21, an increase of 335%. In May, the difference between 2020 and 2021, we went from 15.5% up to 50%, a difference of 222%. In June, also with occupancy, 20 to 21, went from 26% to 67%, an increase of 157%. And then finally in July, from 20 to 21, we went from 41% to 81%, an increase of 95%. The trends are similar with ADR. In April, we went from $60.50 up to $97.40. In May, in 2020, $73.90 up to $120.91. In June, $86.19 up to $136.20. And finally in July, our peak season, June and July, we went from $110 up to $174.14. We'll talk about some of the reasons for some of these trends once again after the fact. Rev Par in the United States, Niagara Falls, April, $6.49 up to $45.45. That's a considerable leap. In May, $11.48 up to $60.51. June, $22.40 up to $91.25, a significant leap, and another significant leap, as one would expect, in July from $45 up to $141.66. In Canada, the numbers are not as enlightening, unfortunately. With occupancy in April of 2020 versus 2021, it went from 5.6% occupancy up to 11.01%, an increase of 94%, but the numbers are way off of what they were in the previous year in 2019 rather. In May, Canada, in Niagara Falls, Canada, went from 7.1% to 12.8%, a 79% increase, but well short of 2019's numbers. In June, once again, the high season there, 11% up to 23%, which is a 108% increase, but far short of the previous year, 2019. And then finally in July, the height of the season, it went from 30.5% to 50%, an increase of 66.9%, but once again short of 2019. ADR in April, 20 to 21 went from $47.75 to $80.85. May, $67.73 to $82.98. June, $77.12 up to $95. And in July, the height of the tourist season, $82.27 in 2020 up to $130.66 in 2021. Finally, Rev Par, and these are the numbers that are somewhat staggering. In April of 2020, $2.71 up to $8.90. May, $4.83 up to $10.58. June, $8.57 up to $21.99. And finally, in July 2020 and 2021 are $25.07 and $66.46 respectively. I want to talk about just some overriding themes that are significant in affecting some of these numbers. If you recall, we had talked about J1 visas becoming somewhat hampering with respect to finding help. That was exacerbated in the United States by employment benefits and people working from home, not really allowing or keeping people from working. So help has been very, very difficult to find. Some of the numbers were also affected by the fact that U.S. travel between states was fluid, whereas in Canada, the individual provinces were essentially on lockdown, not allowing people to travel by car as they were here in the United States. And that affected large cities more considerably than smaller cities. One of the advantages, and perhaps one of the things that enabled Niagara Falls, United States, here in New York, to thrive, despite the COVID pandemic, was the fact that people were able to drive between and among states, and that whereas one might have been traveling by plane before, we had a substantial percentage of the population here in the Northeast that weren't traveling only 4, 5, and 6 hours, but rather traveling up to 12 hours, encompassing quite a bit of the United States population. So that's an overview. I hope you found this helpful, hearing the differences between Europe and Asia and the United States and Canada. And we look forward to having you see some of our future telecasts. Thank you.